Hello. Welcome into the Eric Zane Show podcast from the Impact Power Sports Studio, where for 5 years I was lovey-dovey. You're like, what is that? That's George Thorogood. One bourbon, one scotch, one beer. Where we have been doing our thing here for quite some time. Thank you for checking out the Eric Zane Show podcast, a daily show where I discuss news, nonsense, and my personal adventures. Personal adventure number one today is the background and the information officially about where I will be doing my my thing, morning radio, come Monday. Isn't that a Jimmy Buffett song? I guess I'm in the mood for reminding myself of songs that I like. Q100. Q100Michigan.com. A little bit of background. Q100 is a 60,000 watt radio station that you can actually hear over the air radio from Clare, Michigan, which is like the center of Michigan pretty much, all the way up to the Mackinac Bridge, and from lakeshore to lakeshore. You can be sitting there on the shores of Lake Huron, and you can call somebody on the shores of Lake Michigan and say, hey, are you listening to Easy? Yeah, I'm listening to Easy. Oh, my God, great. On Q100. Starts Monday, 6 a.m. I'm very, very excited about it. The story behind it is has a few twists and turns. How quickly this fell out of the sky. And I guess everybody else thought that I would work with this job, except I never considered it. First of all, if you want to be able to hear it, you can download the Q100 app. So if you go to the App Store or wherever you go on Android phones, or just stream it from your desktop or your laptop, Q100Michigan.com, you would just search Q100 Michigan and download the app, and then you can check out the show. The show is called The Insane Asylum, Q100 Michigan with Eric Zane. So for years now, I have been doing The Insane Asylum on this radio station, and I've made fun of myself, and I've said, oh, yeah, it's on the highly coveted midnight to 2 a.m. air shift. I'll be going in several different directions, giving you the background of how this all happened. But for 4 years, I would make a show right here, and they gave me the freedom to pick all the music for the Insane Asylum. I didn't think up the name. Station number 2, Jerry, likes to call himself number 1, but his wife's number 1. Number 2 was like, how about we call it the Insane Asylum? And, I always am like, whatever. I'm not really big on picking the names of the shows or anything like that. But it stuck, and it's been years. So that's kind of like the brand. It makes sense to make the morning show the Insane Asylum. However, when it came time to getting ready to do this morning show, same guy, Jerry, JC, number 2, he goes, I got a name for the morning show. I go, okay, what is it? He says, we'll call it A Cup of Insanity. And the look on my face is the same as the feeling I had inside of, it just doesn't seem to work. But I didn't say anything. I was like, whatever, sounds good to me. Well, then I got in front of number 1, which is his wife, the multi-talented Cheryl, and she goes, what are you calling the show? And so then she found out on Cup of Insanity, and she goes, no. She goes, just call it the Insane Asylum. I go, sounds good to me. I go, I don't care what you call it. She goes, no, it's if you spent years here on the Insane Asylum. That's what you got to go. That's what you got to go with. Amanda, of course, likes Cup of Insanity. because she likes everything that sucks. Okay? Oh, shit. Now, here I am telling a story, and we've got spam, whatever, trying to... Hang on, I got to get rid of this. Yeah, a cup of insanity doesn't work at all. For starters, you want to stick with what you've used before. I mean, it isn't like I'm a household name, but at the same time, I have been on the air at that radio station for 4 years. You probably want to stick with that. That's what makes sense. No one's going to get it. It's just going to sound like I'm saying the word insanity wrong. That's what it's going to sound like. Amanda says, I didn't say I liked it. I just said it wouldn't be bad. That's you saying you like it. It's not. It is bad. It's very bad. After thinking about it, it's extremely bad. Don't start anything today. All I want to do is tell the story. I don't want to put up with you. Okay? That's a one thing I don't want to do on this day is put up with you today. So just get ahead of yourself and button it up. I don't want to put up with Amanda, her usual horse shit. God damn. All right. So, let's see. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks and a few days. Even the week before that. Okay, so 3.5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, Jerry, JC, from this radio station, Q100, reaches out to me. He says, EZ, we need a morning guy on Q100. Do you know anyone? And I said, well, I'll ask around. Day passes. He calls me back. Stand by. He says, EZ, what do you think of free beer and hot wings? Now, I had tipped you off that they had something to do with this story because of this conversation that I'm about to tell you right now. What do you think about free beer and hot wings? And I go, well, speaking on a professional level only with you. Because personally, I obviously have a problem with them, as you know. But can this work for you? And I said, well, first of all, the problem number one is you play music in the morning. You have actual content that you've built the radio station on for the last 10 years. People know what to expect when they turn on your radio station. If you put on a show that goes from that level of content to all talk, you are really starting out this game in a difficult manner. It's one thing if you have a morning show that gets fired or you're replacing that already talks a lot and you put them on. It's an entirely different thing when you go from all music to, you are literally going to have to reshape the audience. And sometimes it doesn't work. And well, a lot of times it doesn't work. Sometimes it works. A lot of times it doesn't work. And that would be horrible for you. I said, but the good news is it is free. You don't pay a dime for it out of your pocket. It's a barter show. And they love markets like yours, small, because a lot of times you have stations that just can't afford to put anybody on the air. He goes, well, that's not a problem, but I just don't have anybody. And I said, also, the content that they actually do, and he interrupts me. He goes, yeah, I know. I see it's a lot of like games and things like that. I go, games and subject matter what they'll choose to talk about on a regular basis is a little annoying. And you've got a real mixed bag of personalities that just will not meld with Northern Michigan. I mean, Northern Michigan, if they're exposed to two young chicks and, extremely woke, not that that's a bad thing, but aren't afraid to speak their minds about that, I don't know if that's necessarily going to fly with your audience. And it isn't that I myself would or would not be afraid, but they for sure are going to talk about things that are not going to align with the people that live in and around Northern Michigan. Plus, you have no music. So that's what they're forced to listen to. I said, from my personal, professional perspective, I don't think it would work. And he goes, no, there's no way it would work. And I go, okay. He says, see if you can find me somebody else. I go, no problem. So I reached out to a couple souls, and then I got to thinking about WLAV in West Michigan. And it was 3 Fridays ago and a few days. Cole writes, it's a shit kicker town or area. You don't want whining bitches on the radio and Kelly. Patrick says Maitland brings the hard-hitting topics like cupcakes and colors. On Thursday's edition of Who Are These Free Beers, we will be breaking down the discussion on the Free Beer and Hot Wings show, the shape of butter. I know that sounds odd. They always sound odd. They were having a discussion about the football player who retired, the fucking hiker for the Eagles, Kelsey. And then that topic finished, and then Freeberg dives right into, okay, hey guys, did you know that there's more than one shape for butter? That sounds like I made it up. And they talked for 10 minutes about the shape of butter in different parts of the country. I guess in some parts of the country, there's sticks. And in other parts of the country, they're kind of like blocks of butter. Huh. So I reach out to, I'm thinking about, okay, who can I get for this job? And Greg Henson, Michelle McCormick, and Travis Gibbs on WLAV. I'm like, maybe they would get a chance to send what they're doing, syndicate it up north. Maybe that would be something that they would be interested in. So first thing I did was I texted Greg Henson from WLAV, and I said, hey, do you know anybody who'd be interested in a morning gig up north? And if you don't, would you be interested in sending WLAV up north to syndicate it? And he answered my first question with, yeah, I know someone who would take that job. Who should take that job? You. And then he wrote, in answering your second question, yeah, I'd love to hear more. So I call him up and I have a conversation with him. And the first thing he says is, yeah, you should do that job. I go, well, I don't think logistically that would work. I'm not traveling. And that's it. And I don't think they're interested. Nothing has been said to me about this. And he goes, oh, okay. Well, yeah, we could definitely pull that off. Send what we're doing up there. I mean, can you like introduce me? I go, absolutely. I'll take care of it, and we'll probably have a conversation the next day or so. Maybe you two will hit it off, and then you can be heard on another station. How does that sound? Make a little extra money. It's a great opportunity. It's a 60,000 watt signal. It would basically, WLAV would cover more than 2/3 of Michigan at that point. At least your show would. Excuse me. Okay, great. Hang up with him. Call JC on Q100. He picks up. Hello. Hey, JC. So anyway, I just spoke with this Greg Henson at WLAV, and he says, and I start saying that, and he goes, "Hey, hold on a second." I go, "Yeah, okay, what?" He goes, "Do you want this job?" And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, you have a studio. We could just do it right from your place." And I go, "Yeah, what? I cannot believe this. You could have knocked me over with a feather." I was like, "Whoa." I just had a conversation with this dude, Greg Henson, and the first thing he said to me was that, and I just didn't see this coming. He goes, "Well, you'd be my number one choice, but I just didn't think you were interested because you got all this stuff going on with the podcast." And then Cheryl, his wife, the number one, she said, "Why don't you ask Eric?" And I actually said to her, "No, he won't. He's got a million things going on. He won't be able to do it. There's no way." Well, immediately the gears start going in my head. I said, "Well, if I can do it from home, that changes everything." Okay. I would do the show and then just start my podcast a couple hours later. Everything else is business as usual. Yeah, I am interested in that gig. By the next day, we had worked everything out. We had talked money, we had talked logistics, how we're going to make this happen. And it kind of all just fell into place, I guess. And so that was it. And I am now talking about it freely. They have posted me on the website, and this to me is special because, well, first of all, it's kind of cool that I had actually been on the air on that show, even though it was midnight to 2. But I mean, I have a presence on the radio station, so it actually makes perfect sense. If you have questions, by all means, Ryan writes, have they fortified your internet? That happens Friday. I actually have a engineer pal who I've mentioned before, Dave Grant. He is, oh my God, the level of expertise on Dave. Dave is the old engineer at Cumulus, and he was hired in a contracting capacity to come in and supervise the setup of everything I need. So that's happening as we speak. And then Tyler writes, Huge's first question after finding out about the gig: how much money are they paying you? That's actually true. That is actually true. How much are you getting paid? I was like, hey, let's not worry about that. You know, I'm happy. This is a great opportunity. So there's a lot of upside to this. I'm extremely stoked about it. And Aram says, have you decided what will be the first song you will play when you are live as hell bad? Let me say this. When I start this first show, they have music picked out. Now, I have the freedom to play whatever I want within reason. I'm not going to play fucking MC Hammer. But I probably won't mess with the music, at least right away, because I'm not going to lie to you. I'm very nervous about this. I'm not so nervous about when I'm actually speaking into the microphone and talking to the audience on Q100. There's just a few moving parts that is a little foreign to me. I have one computer monitor in front of me now. I will have 3 on Monday. You know, I have now a set of things that I have to concern myself with. The IT setup that I will be using it was described to me as like a mirror of what is seen in the actual studio. And without getting too far down the inside baseball rabbit hole, whenever you do something new, there's just a little bit of nervous energy. But The way it was described to me is there's a guy who is the operations manager. His name is JJ. And he talks about this other dude on the air. And he goes, look, this guy is technologically so inept. And if he can figure this out, I know you can figure this out. So that's literally what I'm hanging my hat on. The fact that the guy who doesn't know anything is able to master this. So it's just a little different. And look, this is all I'll tell you. Don't judge me on anything you hear. It's okay to laugh at what you hear, at the things that happen when it's going to sound like an airplane crashing into the ground or a train wreck or something like that. But don't hold it against me. It's going to get better. The discussions I had with station personnel and powers that be and people on the street and people who know about this, they're going to be like, well, what can we expect? I was like, well, again, I'm a new guy on there in Morning Drive. The last thing I'm going to do is just kick in the door and shock the shit out of these people with full-on Eric Zanisms. You know, the things I say on this podcast, you're not going to hear those on the radio. There's a whole litany of things that you will only hear on the podcast that I would never dream of bringing up on the radio. This is presenting morning show style with music. The station was built on music. It will continue to be built on music. Okay? If there was ever a time that we were going to start to get more adventurous in what we talk about in between the songs, this would be a long process. And even then, I just don't see it happening. You know, I expect short intervals of time, and there's things called service elements. What time it is, the weather, news headlines, things like that. Contests, you know, give away tickets to this, give away a lottery ticket, give away a gift certificate. This is a local radio station, so I have to hold true to that, and that is what I am planning to do. We're not reinventing the wheel here. This isn't just go in and try to change things. My goal is to stay as true to what the radio station is built on for the past 10 years. Ryan says, sounds like new material is inbound for Who Are These Zanes? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Now, the only thing I'm concerned with right now, I'm glad you mentioned that, because eventually that will happen. I want to be able to take the material that I talk about on that show and make it available on like the Patreon, whatnot, things like that. They also have an opportunity for you to listen on their app on the on-demand section. So you can listen to whatever the hell's going on. But, yeah, you know, I fully expect things that happen on that show to be able to be picked on and made fun of. I would love that. Nick writes, can you play any song or does it have to be in their library? It's a great question. Let me just give you a little bit of background on this, because typical radio stations, they have a playlist and they stick to the playlist. And the way they get the playlist is they have a consultant, and then they'll do what's called a focus group or a music test. Seriously, this is inside baseball, but it's pretty interesting. Let's say you're Joe Blow, run-of-the-mill classic rock radio station. You sit 100 people down in a room, and you play them 5 seconds of a classic rock song. And those people who are paid a handful of dollars and given free Jimmy Johns then rate it by love it, dislike it, know it but don't like it, know it and love it. And they're doing this. This is research. And then the research firm tabulates all that information. And out of all the songs that they've quote unquote tested, they take the ones that score the best. And then that's your playlist. And that's how they do it. It's been that way for decades. Q100 does not. Up until just a couple of years ago, the first 8 years of their existence, everyone who worked at the radio station had zero experience working at a radio station. The only person who had any experience working at a radio station was Cheryl Coyne. Cheryl Coyne is the number one, okay? And she has been selling radio advertising for years, but she's not a programmer, as far as I know. At least that's what I was told, or hasn't been on the air. So the people that run the radio station, they're like, well, we don't want to do it that way. We're just going to go and play the songs that we think are appropriate. This is beyond deep cuts. You're looking at rock music from, fuck, man. I've heard Elvis Presley on that radio station, all the way to now. You just hear a lot of shit that you have never heard before. Even some of the music that Nick over there, who just asked this question, likes, you would hear day parted, which means you'd probably hear it only at night or maybe on the weekend. And the list goes on. The playlist, which is a term that it's constantly growing, is 6,000 to 7,000 songs. When I first started listening to Q100, I was like 2-3 songs in a row I would hear, and I was like, I have never heard these fucking songs before. I'm like, from my personal opinion, it's almost too deep. It's almost too unfamiliar. But whatever. Ryan says, why is your Friday show running shorter? 8:50 end time. Great question. Because the show is 6 to 10, but probably the last time I'm going to talk is going to be at 9:50. But then on Friday, it'll be 8:50. Because at 9 a.m., they have a show. It's called Northern Focus, and JC records it. And I think what this is because this is a local community-based radio station. Make no mistake. The number one goal of the radio station is to super serve a local community. So, you're going to be having people on who might be local luminaries, maybe charitable events. And so this is almost like in line with like a public affairs show. And JC, who's number 2, that is Cheryl's husband, Jerry. He's the guy that said, hey, why don't you work here? He does that show. So I finish up, and then JC takes over for that show. Cole says this is the kind of radio station I like. We don't need to hear the same 15 songs every hour. And then when it comes to me, I'm getting back to music. JC says, well, you've been picking the music for the Insane Asylum all by yourself for 4 years. So I trust you to play appropriate songs. So you can play whatever the hell you want. And I go, that's fucking cool, JC. Are you serious? He goes, yeah. He goes, I take a look at the playlist that you send me for your 2-hour show, and then I listen to your shows, Easy. And then when I hear something, I go out and I'll add it into our playlist. I'll rip the song, I'll add it. It's shit I've never heard before. So that's basically it. That's how they've ran the radio station since they purchased it 10 years ago. And now I am part of it. And so and one of the things they said to me is they go, Easy, we want you to promote that podcast. And I go, honestly, man, I don't want to do that. At least not to start. You got to understand here. The podcast is a different animal. And eventually, perhaps, but let's not overwhelm these people with too much. To me, the number one thing is on the air, doing what I'm supposed to be doing, playing the music, doing the things that I'm supposed to do as a new host, getting these people used to me. I don't want to say, oh, yeah, I know you love this, and thanks for being here. I'm new, and oh, by the way, I have a podcast. You got to hear this. And then they turn it on, and I'm telling Kenny to go fuck himself. Can you imagine that? That'd be a little weird, in my opinion. So I'm very, very, I'm looking out more for the radio station. Amanda says, are you still going to do flirty shit with that woman that talks? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Does that mean like the station voice who says the Insane Asylum with Eric Zane? Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know about that, if that's what you mean. And then she says, and then fake news stories, because that would be awesome. Fake news stories. Again, I'm starting to pick up, Amanda, that I think you have a brain tumor. When you write, it's so horrible. The level of I can't remember a time that I've read what you wrote and thought, this makes perfect sense and is a well-worded question. Have you ever thought to maybe just say it out loud and see if it sounds retarded or not? Because when I read the thoughts that are in your brain that come out, you just sound eternally stupid. And I know you're not. But it's just so bad. It's really bad. You gotta learn to write like a big girl. I know you can do this. No punctuation. It's just a complete catastrophe. Hurricane Ashley is here. She says, are you and Kenny fighting again? No. Negative. Ashley says, or Kenny says, about time you showed up. And then Kenny describes it as love, hate, love, LOL. Cole says maybe she means JC's Tales from the Road. Oh, okay. Yeah, you see, I can't, you see how what Cole did? He actually thought that no one should be deciphering what you say. You should just explain it better. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Aram says, with that woman that talks, what the hell is that referring to? Yeah, it's exactly. I had to piece that together. You can't ask me these questions that are just half formulated in your brain. Maybe save it for when we're actually having a conversation. God forbid if that ever happens. So I want you folks to dig deep about what you want to hear on this radio station. The music that you want to hear. But the one thing I do want to say is that I'm not right away going to be playing requests. But because I'll be so goddamn nervous, it might take a day or two to actually get up to speed. But like legit requests. This is the first time in my life, except for college. This is going to sound crazy, that I've worked at a radio station that plays requests. That is a myth. When I started in 1991 or 1990, whatever it was, at Z93, there's no requests. The program director is always like, no, we're not doing that. We're not playing requests. So this is really rare. Really, really rare. Ryan says, you really want to give Northern Michigans a rock hard boner? You should hire Kelly as your voiceover intro. Make sure it includes a lot of crispy R's in the copy that you make her read. Cole says, first song, Guns N' Roses, Hair of the Dog. The thing about the playlist is, like I indicated, there's a lot of songs that I just don't recognize. Lonely Boy, Black Keys. Of course, I've heard that. Almost Hear You Sigh by the Rolling Stones. Never heard that. A live acoustic version of Ted Nugent's Fred Bear. Blackbird by the Beatles. Great song. A song by Chris Cornell called Can't Change Me. Very old Doors song. They're all old. Land Ho by the Doors. In the Midnight Hour by the Commitments. John Hyatt, Cry Love. Hold Me Lord, Eric Clapton. Forget Me Not, Bad English. In the Evening, Led Zeppelin. Fame, David Bowie. Every Breaking Wave by U2. In the Shape of the Heart, Jackson Browne. Kryptonite, Three Doors Down. Walking in L.A., Missing Persons. Live and Let Die, Paul McCartney. White Room, Live, Cream. Fifth Avenue, Heartache, Wallflowers. Need You Tonight, In Excess. Shining On, Grand Funk Railroad. Positive Vibrations, 10 Years After. Joe Walsh, Van Morrison, David and David. And not Welcome to the Boomtown. John Waite, Bruce Springsteen. Song by Springsteen I've never heard before called Sherry Darling. I think it's off of The River. Song by Lenny Kravitz I've never heard of. In fact, it says The Pleasure and the ... It can't even fit the title in. So that gives you an idea of what's up. I don't know if Fuck the Pain Away by Peaches is going to make the playlist. Kenny says, hold on a second. Comments are flying at me. Presidents of the United States. I love them. Peaches. Awesome song. Kenny says, I kind of want to hear the WBBL intro again. Back in the Saddle. Yeah, I won't play the intro. Amanda says, I'm so glad you said Live and Let Die. All right, so glad you said Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney. Because if I hear Live and Let Die by Guns N' Roses one more time, I'm going to beat the radio senseless. That's at work. Okay, cool. Love you. All right. That's pretty much it, you know. And there's also the element of, if I go up north, you know, I'll just wake up. Oh, the exact location of the radio station. This is also cool. It's 5 miles away from Fear Bunker North. The way I discovered this radio station was just before I went on with the Insane Asylum on the overnight, I was listening to the radio station while I was up north. So I'm like, you know, whatever, sitting around the fire. I'm like, God damn, this radio station is cool. And I actually, some of you may remember this, I reached out to them, left them a nice message, and said, look, I really love your radio station. I am. This is who I am. This is what I do. I've been around radio a long time. I've never heard anything like this. This is so fantastic. 2 days later, I had Jerry and Cheryl on this podcast, and I was speaking to them, and I introduced the audience to them, and I said, well, this is just so great. It's a great story. And, you know, I got the lowdown, and then I actually met JC in person up at the radio station, and he invited me in, and I sat in with him for a portion of an afternoon, and then he said, hey, why don't you do a show here? And I go, yeah, you know, I think I'd like that. And then the Insane Asylum was born. So I started making that show here, sending it up to them, just send them 8 segments, put it up on Patreon, and there we go. I've loved it. That is how that all got started. 6 years prior to that, so that would be 11 years ago. 11 years ago, I was in a restaurant in Grayling, and it's called the Coca-Cola restaurant. You go in there, and all it is a museum of Coca-Cola. It's actually for sale right now. The guy who owns it is a dude by the name of Bill Gannon. And I sit down with Diana, and I'm looking at the memorabilia, and the kids are there, and this is kind of fun, whatever. And Bill Gannon also owns, believe it or not, a Fred Bear museum right next door to it. It's called Bear Pizza. That sounds weird. And then part of Bear Pizza is a museum for Fred Bear, the Fred Bear. You're like, wait, why? In case you don't know, Fred Bear, one of the true pioneers of modern archery hunting, began making his signature archery equipment in Grayling, Michigan. He had a vast knowledge of hunting and woodworking because he, for working for General Motors, I think, or Ford, would make stained wood pieces that would go on the inside of your vehicle. And his knowledge of the wood led him to making his own brand of archery equipment, bows. Well, his factory started in like his house in Grayling, and then he started to expand and build his empire of archery equipment all right there. In fact, 2 weeks ago, they actually unveiled a statue of Fred Bear right there. That's the place. So there's a long, rich history with Fred Bear. And this guy, this Bill Gannon, he owns Coca-Cola restaurant. Right next to it is Bear Pizza with Fred Bear Museum. Fred Bear's car is in the restaurant. He had this old Mustang, one of those garbage ones with a V6 in it. And he actually has the car inside of the restaurant. It's unbelievable. It's definitely a tourist thing that you have to see there. Well, anyway, I'm in this Coca-Cola restaurant, and I strike up a conversation with this guy. I don't know who he is. And he goes, yeah, this is mine. I go, oh, wow. I go, that's kind of cool. And then we stumble into the conversation, and he says, yeah, I own a radio station, and it's Q100. But at the time, it's not Q100. It's a radio station that he's trying to unload because he doesn't want it anymore. And he's not like running it efficiently. It's kind of like has piped in satellite sound from the middle of nowhere. Well, so I found that I had this interaction with him, and then I just filed it in my brain. Okay. I don't think about this radio station again till 6 years later when I hear Q100. What had happened during those 6 years was Jerry and Cheryl, the people who just hired me, they decided that they wanted to buy a radio station and move up north. Jerry tells me that he sees this property, Q100, for sale. And actually, it wasn't even for sale. He just saw the property. Jerry reaches out to Bill Gannon, guy who's waiting on me at the restaurant, and says, hey, and makes a proposal. 3 minutes later, Jerry's phone rings. It's Guy, Bill. And then they started to fucking talk turkey. Eventually, it's sold outright. Bill sells it to Jerry and Cheryl. There's all sorts of story I don't even know the ins and outs of it. But when I mentioned the name Bill to Jerry, his eyes rolled. He was like, oh, God. I guess it wasn't exactly the cleanest sale, but it worked out. So then there they are. They're off and running with their radio station. Cheryl, with a knowledge of radio sales, that is her background. She sold for years and was a boss in Detroit selling ads at the number 6 radio market in America. Well, and frankly, that's the number one thing that you want to have in your pocket, somebody who can sell. She can sell anything. So then there they are. They got their microphones. They got their idea, and they're building, and that's about it. So it's right in Grayling. You saw a picture that I posted of me. I told you the story about how I walked into the radio station last week, Wednesday, and I was greeted by the station dog. And this, to me, was an omen. This was a sign that this is absolutely the perfect place for me to be in. When I walk into the radio station in the middle of the woods, Grayling, Michigan, and there's a dog tug toy on the floor of the radio station. And then I'm like, uh-oh, I love dogs. I wonder what I'm about to stumble upon. And then out from around the corner is the most handsome boy bulldog you will see. Look at that fella. That is Louie. And there he is giving me a run for my money. Of course, some folks saw this picture and were like, oh, my God, look at that carpet. Yeah, make no mistake. This is an old building. This is my type of place to work, okay? This is the type of place that I worked at when I started at Z93. All right. I don't know if it's officially a double wide, but it has some real modular appearance to it. And I fucking love it. I am stoked about this. I just can't wait. So yeah, man, it's just cool. It's really great. Despite what Rick from TC thinks. Rick thinks I'm gonna fail. Rick's like, oh yeah, podcast is over. That's why, well, like, it can't be over because the radio station's not paying me enough to survive. They're paying me like a contractor because I am, and that's fair. That's we settled upon a deal that was fair to both, and I was happy with it. And it was a quick negotiation. I want these people to succeed very much so. So I plan on working very, very hard to help them with that. Being that I have not been on the air in Morning Drive in this type of capacity with this much, I don't want to say pressure, but there's a lot riding on it. I think I'm smarter now. I have been, I think the realization upon getting fired after the heights that we achieved, Morning Drive at GRD, that has allowed me to understand, because I'll be perfectly honest with you. I was under the impression that it was impossible to fire me. I had that opinion of myself. And, well, I couldn't have been more wrong now, could I? And I feel like that has made me a more valuable asset because if people are depending on me, and they are, and I have the attitude like, yeah, you can be shown the door in an instant. Doesn't matter how good you are at whatever. If you are even any good, here's to God willing that I am. I would say that the arrogance of me ended up being more, leading more to my undoing than anything. I'll be the first one to admit that. But it's not there anymore because it's clear that you can fuck it up. So I'm just excited about being part of a team and actually being there and helping them out and being back on the air regularly. Kenny says you started doing the Insane Asylum just for fun, right? That is correct. No salary even. Correct. I've never made a penny from these people. He says now it's turned into this. That's pretty awesome. Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate that. He says, I love how this all worked out for you. Yeah, it did happen to just work out. And like I said, when Jerry said, hey, how about you take this job? You were my number one. I just didn't think you'd be interested. And I was like, well, holy shit. That is that is excellent. All right, seems to be a fight between Kenny and Amanda. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Kenny, I see. Kenny said that Guns N' Roses did the song Live and Let Die better. Megan says, can I get a bigger sign? Well, of course you can get a bigger sign. Get me a bigger sign. You got a whole wall with your name on it, madam. And then Amanda's telling Kane to fuck off. Oh, my God. Come on now. Any band covering a Beatles song is better than the Beatles, Kenny says. Boy, you really know how to piss her off. And then Cole says the same thing. I love the Beatles. But if that means pissing Amanda off, I can just say the Beatles suck. Amanda says, apparently double wide is not modular unless it's on a basement or foundation. Shut up. Who cares? Live and Let Die isn't the Beatles. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's definitely the Beatles. What are you talking about? It's on the White Album. Live and Let Die, the Beatles. It definitely, Kent says it wasn't a Beatles song. Yeah, it was. I'm looking right at it. It showed up on the White Album, and it showed up on Abbey Road. I don't know what you guys are talking about. You got it wrong. I know that, you assholes. It was a misspeak. Jesus. Okay, so that's the long and the short of it. So that starts on Monday. This show will start at 10. Finish up the radio show, get right after the podcast, get done with the podcast, get right after the Patreon, and then that's it. Just let you have it. Then edit, post, day is done. Stripe Parking Lots with Timmy Mayer. My God. Easy. Why are you working so much? Well, there's nothing else to do. What the fuck else am I supposed to do? Sit around. I can no longer run. I can no longer do my exercises that I love to do. That's killing me. Get out and stripe some parking lots with Timmy Mayer. An absolute saint. Love that guy. Rebecca says you got to pay those taxes. Yeah, in case you don't know, I am in for over right now, as it stands. It might go down, but I'm in for 20,000 plus. 20,000 plus by April 15. I got to get the money to the Cook County assessors. Ashley has trumped it. Yesterday she said 12, and she says now it's 29,000. Wow. What about how does that even happen? When you were working, do they not take taxes out, or are you like you have to pay it on your own? Is that how that works? That's interesting to me, how you could have that much of a discrepancy. Linda says, easy, how about rest? Linda, and this is perfect, because when you are old like us, you have to consider the rest thing. So if I'm getting up early and doing all that shit, talking, I'm probably going to be exhausted. So easy, when are you going to rest? Now, at this point in time, there are no plans to rest. It is just work, 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 and then at nighttime, go to bed. Now, that may change. Day one. But I figure if I can be in bed by 8, which honestly, that's a thing I like to do, even now when I get up at in the 6 o'clock hour. If I can get 7-8 hours on the overnight, I think I'm in good shape. I might need like a 15-minute nap somewhere in the middle of that. But I am ready to make fucking fat stacks. I am selling my body to the highest bidder. And right now the bidder is Timmy Mayer, JC, Cheryl Coyne, and you. Before we continue, I have an update. I should say this. When we continue, because I'm going to talk about some sponsors here in a second. And you are not going to bump ahead on the audio podcast. I have some aftermath on the discussion yesterday about Tyler A. and his looking for advice with his ex-wife about daddy-daughter dance. I have some comments, long form in email. I have an update from Tyler himself has weighed in. I'll even quickly get you up to speed on the ins and outs of what he was talking about and my opinion about it. And also, we will touch on the horrible advice that perpetual bachelor Kenny gave. Ashley in for 29 large to the government. Says, I'm selling Buddy. Any offers? Her dog. I don't think she's going to sell the dog. She says, do I have 29,000? Absolutely not. She says, I'm offering anal, Buddy, anything. So if any of you are interested in anal, you can reach out to Ashley. Kenny says, LOL, WTF. I guarantee you his dick is elevated off the sack with that comment. Ryan says, Ashley, jizz painting can be quite profitable, I understand. Ashley says, I'll be the best at it. Amanda suggests OnlyFans. Ashley adds, what is the street value for butt sex? I don't know. A lot of strange things happening on this show. All right. Again, these are things I will not talk about on the radio. Honestly, I don't know where my personality is going to wind up. It's kind of like take it as it happens when it comes to on the radio. If anyone from the radio station is actually hearing what I'm saying right now, trust me, you are not going to get this level of Eric Zane. We haven't gotten that far yet. Hang on, I got to sneeze. Oh, that's painful. All right. For the audience who's enjoying the show on Facebook, X, and YouTube, it's time to leave. But I want to remind you that you can get the full show on Twitch. Download the Twitch app and then search Eric Zane Live. Audio podcast. This becomes the audio podcast. Wherever you download shows, subscribe, rate, and review. Patreon. Patreon is at patreon.com. You can sign up for free for 7 days. I do a second podcast when this one is done, found at patreon.com/Eric Zane. This week, I'll be doing Who Are These Free Beers with Ben Glaze on Thursday, as well as the Ben and Eric Patreon podcast. For a Big Fraud Thursday, we'll be breaking down the Free Beer and Hot Wings segment where they talk about the different shapes of butter. I'm talking about Ben's big trip to Las Vegas. I cannot wait to get the details of that. As he just got back yesterday. So there you go. Thanks again for the folks on Facebook, X, and YouTube for being here for part of this show. And don't forget to download the Q100 app. On the App Store, just search Q100 Michigan and download the app. All right.